I really love writing music. This is really just my big passion, and writing for different combinations of instruments and hearing the music live. Just a lot of fun, but it's also a lot of hard work. But I've been doing it for so long that whenever I get a chance to write a new piece, I always am very excited and jump at the idea and always try to create something new and try to find some new approach for writing every new piece. So it's always an adventure for me. Well, this piece, Images from a Journey, is a four-movement work that has a programmatic meaning. So each movement has a programmatic title that's translated and expressed musically. I was starting with this programmatic idea and I was trying to express this musically. So the first movement is titled Through a Prism, which means that the light scatters through a prism from the white light into the different colors. So for that movement, I wanted to create the feeling of this light being scattered around. So different registers, very bright colors in this movement for different instrument playing and all over the ranges, and it's very exciting and very fast movement with a lot of activity. So that's the idea behind the first movement. The second movement is called Moonlight Passacaglia, and for that movement, the inspiration came from the idea of our eyes adjusting to the night as we walk into the night, and how at first everything seems to be dark, but as we stay in the night, we are adjusting to the darkness and we're seeing more details as we stay longer. So musically, the form of Passacaglia, the repeated bass line from the very beginning to the end, it stays from beginning to the end, but the other parts are gradually unfolding and growing the same way as if you would be walking at night or being on a beach and starting to see more details as your eyes are adjusting to the darkness, and you're finally grasping the whole scene that you couldn't see at the first moment when you just enter the darkness. So that's the idea behind the second movement. The third movement is titled Nights Embraced. And this one is also about night, but from a different perspective. It's about our fear of the night and the darkness. So in this movement, I wanted to use alto flute and a bass clarinet. And this one is very free, very dark, unsettling mood from the beginning to the end. And it's really about our fear of darkness. So this is the darkest movement of the whole piece. So because I wanted to have really very different characters for each of the movements. So there's fun, there's excitement, there's also the darkness, there's contemplative moods, and so and all of that. So this one is definitely the darkest of them all. The third one is called the Gypsy Ballroom, and for that movement, I imagined what would happen if fun-loving gypsies would take over the ballroom and start dancing. And they are, usually very good dancers. So this one is kind of like a tongue-in-cheek, kind of a funny movement, very energetic, very fast, and it's the idea of fun-loving gypsies taking over a ballroom and having a night of their life and just dancing it off to the end. So that's pretty much those four movements for that these Images from a Journey. I started composing already at the early age when I started, learning violin and then piano. And I always nibbled at composition. I always liked to write something. But really, I really remember this exactly. That the biggest spark for me was when I came to the United States for the first time to the Interlochen Arts Camp in Michigan. I was 15 years old, and for the first time ever, I heard the music of John Adams. It was Short Ride in a Fast Machine, and another piece was Chairman Dances. And remember, this is the era before YouTube, before internet. I mean, that was over 20 years ago. So I never came across this kind of music. When I was listening to music back home in Poland, it was this really severe avant-garde music that's I was exposed to, and that was exciting in a different way. But when I heard, John Adams, those exciting rhythms, those wonderful harmonies, and I mean, it just blew me away. And from that moment, I knew that I want to write music, and I started really composing more in high school. And when I went to college, I already started taking lessons and started developing from that.
What is your experience with entrepreneurship? And do you have any words of advice for budding entrepreneurs?
From what do you mean exactly? From which perspective? From the perspective of a composer or a performer or
performer? Let's go with
performer. Well, I have a project, for example, titled Violent Futura Project. It's a project I created many years ago, and I'm still developing. It's a project I commissioned over 30 composers to write for me short solo violin miniatures for a series of recitals that I would perform, and that's something that I'm really excited about. I'm really proud of this project, and took a lot of effort and all those entrepreneurial skills to organize everything and develop. I have a double CD coming out of Navana Records in next month from this project, and so that was an example of how a performer can create something unique by approaching living composers, collaborating with them, and creating something that no one has ever done before. Because one thing is when you play pieces, even contemporary pieces that were written by someone else already and someone else performed, but if you connect with composers and they write something specifically for you, and you put them all in a group, and then you put your own interpretation on this, I think that's, for me as a performer, that's the first way you can go into creating something really unique. So that's the recommendation I would have for any performers: connect with living composers. Connect with them, either perform their music or commission them to write something specifically for you. So that way you can really work, and they can learn about you as a performer, and you can learn about their music and then create something really unique. So from a perspective of a performer, that's my advice. I would say connect with living composers. There's so much amazing talent among composers and they are so eager to work with performers. So for any entrepreneurial project, I think the most successful ones are the ones where everyone benefits from that project. So that performer, like I had a chance to play a lot of great music that was written for me. The composers got exposure for their music by me performing it. So everyone had fun with this. It wasn't like one-sided that only was good for one person. So I would say find a way that whatever you do, try to involve in a project that benefits everyone who's involved in this, so that everyone can have fun and something can benefit all of everyone involved.
Great. Thank you so much. That's some really great advice.